Hello, my name is Sharon Sarago, and today I'm here to tell you a little bit about compound sentences and how to punctuate them. This is in an effort to help you with your SAT scores and to help them get higher. So there are several things about compound sentences that we'll need to know, but the College Board and the SAT love to test you over the punctuation of those. They want to know if you know how to recognize a complete sentence, for instance. Clearly, the College Board thinks that it's very important for you to be able to recognize the correct punctuation for compound sentences. So let's get started on that. The most frequent error that we have in punctuation of compound sentences is when we join those two sentences with a comma. If we do that, we must have a coordinate conjunction. There are 7 of them: and, but, or, for, nor, yet, and so. If you choose to have one sentence joined to another and you choose to use a comma to do it, you absolutely must have one of these 7 words, and only one of those 7 words. Let's look at an example. After the show, I went straight home, but Sue went to a party with her friends. So if we choose to use the comma right here, then we are obligated to use one of the 7 coordinate conjunctions. But Sue went to a party with her friends. Here's another one. She was afraid to be alone in the house at night, so she turned on all the lights. We have the comma, we have our coordinate conjunction. I would like to add this. You cannot put a comma after the conjunction, regardless of whether you decide to pause or not. You don't put commas just because you pause. You put them because there's a rule for where you put them. She was afraid to be alone in the house at night, so she turned on the lights. That's fine. If you want to pause, do pause, but you cannot put a comma there. The only comma goes in front of the conjunction. Here's another one at the bottom. After the show, I went straight home. Sue went to a party with her friends. Well, the problem that we have here is that this is a complete sentence, and this also is a complete sentence, and you have merely a comma to join the 2 sentences. Now, there are an awful lot of people who believe that you can put 2 sentences together with only a comma, but that is not true. If you do that, it's called a comma splice. And when you go to college, in your freshman English classes, if you make an error like that, it is an egregious error, and many professors will simply give you a 0 on the paper. They want to be sure that you know what a sentence is and you know how to properly punctuate it. Another way that you can make a compound sentence is to join it with a semicolon. The rule is very simple. You can join those 2 sentences with a semicolon as long as the 2 sentences are closely related in content. Here's an example. The men in the class were anxious to do the report. We have a sentence there and we have a semicolon. This tells us we are expecting another complete sentence. They had researched the subject previously and were delighted to share their knowledge with others. That's why it's correct, because you have a complete sentence, you have a semicolon, and you have another complete sentence. Now, when they test you over this, there are going to be several ways that they try to fool you. Just remember that each side of the semicolon must have a complete sentence. So let's look at this one. The men in the class were anxious to do the report, semicolon. Again, that tells me I'm looking for another complete sentence on the other side of that punctuation mark. Here it comes, giving them an opportunity to share their previous research and knowledge with others. That's not a sentence. Now, it might sound okay to read the whole thing straight through, but it has to be punctuated correctly on your paper. There's another way that we can use semicolons. This time we would have to use the semicolon and a conjunctive adverb. Now, I teach this several different ways. The conjunctive adverbs are below. They're fairly large words. They're easy to recognize. And if you choose to use one of those words, then you have to have a comma after it. Let's look. I thought you might want to present your report on Tuesday. Here's my semicolon announcing a new sentence. Here's my opening word, conjunctive adverb, with a comma after it. That comma is critical. If it's not there, then the whole thing would be wrong. So, however, you may present it on Friday if you prefer. Now, you can think about this two different ways. You can think of it as two complete sentences joined by a semicolon, like so. And you can think of it as one of your conjunctive adverbs, however, with a comma after it. Or you can think of it as two complete sentences and an introductory word here. So it could be one of those long words, however, therefore, nevertheless. It really doesn't matter what it is, but you have to have a comma after introductory words. You have to have a comma after introductory phrases, and you have to have a comma after introductory clauses. So basically, anything that introduces the sentence requires a comma after it. There is only one exception, and we will take a look at that very soon. So let's look at these examples now. I thought you might want to present your report on Tuesday. However, you may present it on Friday. Now, these are the ways that they're going to fool you. Here, you have decided, oh, I think I want to join that sentence with merely a comma. No, you can't. It still has to be either a period or a semicolon, because you've got two complete sentences, and you will never be able to join two sentences with merely a comma. Here's another one. I thought you might want to present your report on Tuesday. However, what are we doing? We're missing a comma there. And without it, the sentence is just flatly incorrect. It has to be there. But these are two of the ways that they will test you. Here's another way. I thought you might want to present your report on Tuesday. However, on Friday, if you prefer. Well, this semicolon announces that you've got two complete sentences. And this is not a sentence. Then we still have one more way to create compound sentences. And this time it's going to be joined with a colon. You can use a colon between two complete sentences if the second sentence is an explanation of the first. The interesting thing about this rule is that I haven't seen it in any textbook for over 70 years. And what that means is that a whole lot of teachers out there do not even know that this rule exists. Now, what you have been taught is how to use colons with list. And that's fine. You have a complete sentence, then you have the colon, and you have your list. But there are many, many uses for colons. And this is one that will definitely be on your test. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. We were unprepared for the rigorous test. We had not studied nearly enough. Well, here's the semicolon joining the two sentences. It is correct. You have two complete sentences. We were unprepared for the rigorous test. And your second sentence, we had not studied nearly enough. And the criteria for using a colon between two complete sentences is that the second sentence is an explanation of the first one. The way I do this is to say, we were unprepared for the rigorous test. And then I ask myself silently the question, why? And here comes the answer. We had not studied nearly enough. So you see, this is actually an explanation of this. Number 2, the boats were all called back to the harbor. Here's my colon. I'm expecting another complete sentence. The ensuing storm was much too severe for casual boating. It is a complete sentence. Now let's see if it matches the test for explaining the previous sentence. The boats were all called back to the harbor. In my mind, I say why. Here's the answer. The ensuing storm was too severe for casual boating. It's very simple. It's just that it's new for you. Let's see if we can do some practice sentences that include all 4 rules. When you see these sentences, you're going to read them and make a decision simply whether they are punctuated correctly or not. Number 1, the president tried to explain his point of view, yet his constituents refused to listen to what he was actually saying. All right, we have a comma right here, and we have 2 complete sentences. The president tried to explain his point of view is 1 sentence. His constituents refused to listen to what he was actually saying is a 2nd sentence. And since I've used a comma, I'm obligated to use one of those coordinate conjunctions. And, but, or, for, nor, yet, and so. And this one is yet. Number 2, the waters of the flood were quickly encroaching upon the city. Therefore, the mayor issued an order for immediate evacuation. Well, I have a problem with this one because even though I do have complete sentences, for the 2nd sentence, I have an introductory word, and that is going to require a comma there. So this is incorrect, and this one is incorrect. Number 3, I was surprised to see Jerry engage in such a tantrum. I thought he had better control of his temper than to make such a display of his anger. This one has a colon between 2 complete sentences, and they are both complete sentences. And so the next thing we have to ask is this sentence an explanation of the first? So just try to put why in between. I was surprised to see Jerry engage in such a tantrum. Why? Here's your answer. I thought he had better control of his temper than to make such a display of his anger. Again, is this correct or is it incorrect? Correct it is. Number 4, the students on the team were excited about their imminent victory in the competition, and they were excited to see the end of the day when the winners would be announced. All right, so we might say it that way, and we might make this long pause right here. A lot of people do that. I do that myself. But that is no reason to put a comma there. That does not belong. The comma has to join the 2 sentences with the conjunction. So it would be nice if you would think of it as this. This sign right here, the comma and the conjunction, tells you that you've got a compound sentence. So we'll put an I here because that one's incorrect also. Number 5, we were convinced that the best course of action would be to leave the concert before its conclusion. But the rainstorm hit before we could make our exit. Well, we have a semicolon here. We have a complete sentence. So why is this incorrect? It's because that conjunction belongs only with a comma. You cannot put that conjunction with a semicolon. It is very, very, very precise, and you have to be extraordinarily careful with this punctuation. They're going to put it everywhere. If you've seen the test, you already know that. So now you know the rules. Just study them and memorize them, and you'll be fine. Let's do a few more. Even though no one wanted to admit he was wrong, well, we can just stop right there, because this is not a complete sentence, and therefore I cannot have this semicolon there. The semicolon tells me I have 2 complete sentences. All this is an introductory clause. It requires a comma after it because it's an introductory element. Incorrect. 7. The decision to close the competition on the deadline date was a difficult one, but had to be made. Again, it sounds just fine to read it out loud, but this sign right here, a comma and a conjunction, means that you have two complete sentences. So you have a complete sentence up here, but had to be made is not a sentence, and therefore you cannot use the sign, a comma and a conjunction, that says you do have two complete sentences. Incorrect. The dates for the program had been set months ago. There was no possibility of changing them at the last moment. Well, here is what we call a comma splice. A lot of teachers just abbreviate it CS, and that's when you try to put a comma between two sentences. It cannot be. If you want a comma there, you have to put a conjunction, and, but, or, for, nor, yet, or so, whichever one makes the meaning correct. But you cannot ever just put a comma there. All right, now we're going to go on to a different kind of practice. It's called our test-taking practice. And here we're simply going to decide how to fix that underlined word if it is incorrect. Number 1, the meeting between my teacher and me was canceled, but the scores I made in geometry suggest that I schedule quickly. Sounds great, doesn't it? Oh, I bet a lot of you think that you have to say the meeting between my teacher and I. No, you don't. Remember how we did that in pronoun usage? Take this thing out, and the and see how you're going to read it by itself. The meeting between me was canceled, or something between me. You just don't say between I. So it's actually correct to say the meeting between my teacher and me was canceled. Let's go on. But the scores I made in geometry suggest, well, we've got geometry, which is singular, and suggest, which is singular. The problem there is this is a prepositional phrase, which from day one we learned to ignore. If you do not ignore those, when you're doing analysis like this, you will make mistakes. So, what is the subject of this verb? Something suggests. What is it? It wasn't geometry that suggests. It's the scores that I made. The scores suggest. This is plural, and therefore you must have a plural verb to go with it. Remember that singular verbs end in S and plural verbs do not, so that would have to go away, and that means that B is our answer. That's the one that was incorrect on this sentence. Number 2, I was surprised to see you and Jake at the ball game, I thought you and him were supposed to present the awards at the ceremony. Okay, I don't see anything wrong with you and Jake. I was surprised to see you. I was surprised to see Jake at the ball game. Here's a colon. So what I'm expecting is an explanation. So why was I surprised? I thought you and him were supposed to present the awards at the ceremony. Okay, that one's all right. So now we have a pronoun joined with another word. It could be a noun or it could be a pronoun. And what we learned in our pronoun study was that we read the sentence twice, once with each one of these pronouns, because one of them functions as a subject and one of them functions as an object. And if that's difficult for you, then you can use this little test and it's foolproof. So first of all, let's use just the who and not use him. I thought you were supposed to present the awards. Okay, that's fine. Now let's scratch this one out and try the pronoun, this pronoun. I thought him were supposed. No. You can't say I thought him was. You have to say I thought he. And of course, since now you're testing it with a singular pronoun, you would have to have a singular verb to go with it. I thought he was supposed to present the awards, not I thought him was. So if you've been in a habit of saying you and him, then sometimes it might be correct, but in this situation it is not correct. The way to test it is to scratch this out and read it all by itself with your sentence and see what happens. So here we have C, that's incorrect. Let's go on. Dad sent both Jan and me to the store to get some apples. Plus, he wanted some bananas as well, as long as they were fresh. All right, so first of all, we have A. Let's try this. So we've got two people joined here together. So let's eliminate this and see if we like that sound. Dad sent me to the store. That's correct. So if you think that you always have to say Jan and I, it's just wrong. You don't always. Sometimes it is Jan and I, sometimes it isn't. The way that you're going to tell is to use that pronoun all by itself, and then you'll find the right answer, because you would never in your wildest dreams say, Dad sent I to the store. It's Dad sent me to the store. So that one's okay. Let's move to the next thing. To get some apples. Here's a comma, and I actually have a complete sentence. So I'm expecting another complete sentence. He wanted some bananas as well, as long as they were fresh and not too ripe. Well, that is a complete sentence. But look how we joined it. We have a comma and we have a plus, and you may think that's okay, that plus will substitute for and, but it won't. There are only 7 words that you can use to join two complete sentences together. They are called coordinate conjunctions. And, but, or, for, nor, yet, and so. Plus is not in that group, and that's why that's wrong. So B would be our answer. Number 4. Everyone has his own idea about what determines an exciting evening. Some like going to the movies, some like going to dinner, and attending sports events appeals to others. Okay. Everyone has his own. You might have thought that this should be their. Everyone has their own idea. However, in both the subject-verb agreement section and the pronoun section, you had to memorize this word so that you would know that it is singular. And if it is singular, not only does it have to have a singular verb, but every pronoun that refers back to this antecedent must also be singular. And his refers to the antecedent everyone. Since everyone is singular, this word has to be singular. So that part's correct. Everyone has his own idea about what determines an exciting evening. Semicolon, I'm expecting another sentence. Some like going to movies, some like going, yes, I have another complete sentence here. So this is correct, this is correct. Let's see why this is not correct. Some like going to movies, some like going to dinner. Oh, look at this. This looks like parallel structure, doesn't it? Some like doing this, some like doing that. And what we need is the same structure. And some like sports events, or going to. Oh yeah, it was always going to. Some like going to sports events. It has to be absolutely parallel. And all of this is gone. Some like going to the movies, some like going to dinner, and some like going to sports events. You've had that. This was the last video that we did on parallelism. My main concern is to be sure that you know what the rules are and to give you plenty of examples. So when you work through the packet, then you will be able to work all of those extra test questions. So now we probably want to look at the answers. As with all of my videos, I will give you the answers to the questions that we discuss here. And in your packet, you will have all of the answers for all of the tests and all of the additional exercises that are not included in this video. So you know the rules, learn them. These are all going to be on your SAT test, and all of them will be on your ACT test. Again, I cannot stress how important punctuation with compound sentences is on both of these tests. So study them. I wish you luck in memorizing all the rules, and I will see you on the next video.